ready. It's time to forge the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. If you're joining us on YouTube, thanks a lot for watching. We're going to be talking about more Astra Militarum Codex and some upcoming events all around the United States. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. We have the Bell of Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined tonight by Chris Morgan and Ricky Addington.
Hey guys.
Round 2.
And Andrew Whitaker.
I have a word limit.
What's up, guys?
I love it.
Well, we mentioned on the last show that we're going to be talking about the Astra Militarum and their psychic powers and some of the stratagems. And if you guys are watching us on YouTube, you know I just released a video talking about what is quickly becoming one of my favorite tanks, the Devil Dog.
Woof.
Well, the Devil Dog's pretty good. It's on the Hellhound chassis. It has 11 wounds, toughness 7, 3+ armor save, but the Devil Dog has a 24-inch Melta gun that's Assault D3.
Now, is that like the standard Melta, the Strength 8, AP -4?
D6 damage, roll 2d6, take the highest if you're within 12?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not like a extra fancy Strength 9 or Strength 10 Melta.
It's not, okay, it's extra fancy in the fact that it's Assault D3, meaning technically, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but you can advance and then shoot if you wanted to.
That's correct, yeah, you would just take the penalty to your ballistic skill.
So your BS 4+, but if you it has a 12-inch move, so it's got an effective threat range of the business end of being 24 inches, of the non-business, the non-double damage roll, or should say double damage roll damage, take the highest, of 36 inches.
How many points?
Base points 73, and then the Melta Cannon is 20 points. So 93 plus the heavy bolter. So 93 plus 8, what is that?
101.
101 points.
Yeah, but don't forget, we're going to put another multi-melta on that, right? Instead of the heavy bolter?
You could put another multi-melta on the hull, yes.
Seems not the worst.
Let's go tank hunting with this thing. Jeez.
Well, it's not even tank hunting. Is that the fact that if, let's say, you're catechins, for instance, and you get to re-roll that D6. I mean, for the number of shots, you're averaging 2-3 shots with this Melta Cannon.
Well, I mean, I can't deny that the price point seems really good. I am a little bit. I mean, 11 wounds goes real fast with some of the firepower that's out there nowadays. Unless you've got, like, I would say some kind of saturation with them, like 3 or 4 of these things, I doubt they're going to be able to do much.
Well, don't forget, Chris, nobody's going to focus on this because they're too busy taking those double shot Lehman Russes off the table. So this thing might sneak under the radar.
Well, you've got that.
I think you're going to be pushing this up in people's faces to try to get the damage done. But the Hellhound, the actual Hellhound with the Inferno Cannon, it's heavy 2d6 at 16-inch range. And that automatically hits.
Sorry, it's heavy 2d6?
2d6.
So that's an increase off of the index. It was D6 in the index.
Was it D6? It's string 6. It's heavy 2d6, string 6, -1 AP, 1 damage. I still prefer the Melta Cannon, by the way, but they're both 20 points.
Oh, in the index, it was D6, 2 damage.
Okay, fair enough. I like the extra shots.
I think I like the 2d6 better.
Well, you know, we
especially with the catechin.
We talked a lot about it on the last show. By the way, we did release 2 shows last week. So we did the AdMech tactics with Jeff Robinson. So check that out if you didn't. And we also had the regular show last week.
I do want to just jump in here, and far be it for me to correct Ricardo Addington, who is obviously a authority on all things accurate, but there are no heavy 2d6 weapon variants on Hellhounds. In the index, there was the Chem Cannon was heavy d6. The Inferno Cannon was also heavy D6, and then the Melta Cannon was heavy D3.
Heavy D3 in the index?
Was heavy D3 in the index, strength 8, -4 AP, D6 damage, and then it was a heavy D3 Melta gun, full stop. And then the Inferno Cannon was heavy D6 shots, strength 6, -1, 2 damage apiece at 16 inches.
I think that's what he
said.
That's what I said. But the change is that
well, they said heavy 2d6.
No, Paul's saying that in the codex, it is now heavy 2d6, 1 damage.
Oh,
that is true. Yeah.
Interesting. I think that's actually really good because that's a 16-inch range. Heavy 2d6 on 16-inch range, like that's pretty efficient, like infantry killer. It's a lot of shots.
It is 20 points, and then the Melta Cannon, which is my favorite, is now Assault D3.
Yeah. I like that better than being heavy D3 for sure.
That's definitely better than being heavy D3.
A lot of people forget, though, that when you move these things, like, we're big proponents of the Sentinels. When you move them, that like, it's a base rule that when you move and fire a heavy weapon, you're -1. Like, that's in the rule book. That's
right.
Not,
it doesn't matter for the Chem Cannon and Inferno Cannon because they have those that
they automatically
hits. But the Melta Cannon going from heavy to assault makes a difference because the Melta Cannon doesn't auto hit. Right. It's just a straight ballistic skill shot. So. Definitely makes the Inferno Cannon much more viable, or I'm sorry, the Melta Cannon much more viable to make it an assault weapon.
I think it dropped a few points from the index. I don't have that right in front of me. Somebody can confirm that. But at 20 points, leaving the tank, what did we say? It's 101 points. I think it's a rival for the Sentinel.
Fascinating. Does it have the pre-turn move? Does it move the same way, or
no?
Gotcha. I mean, I think it's a cool variant. Definitely situationally useful. I wouldn't call it a rival for the Sentinel, though. I mean, the Sentinel fulfills that other more kind of streamlined purpose of, hey, I'm moving before the game starts so as to zone out deep strikers and first turn assaulting units. And the Hellhound doesn't perform that function nearly as well. In terms of like battlefield support, fast moving battlefield support, yeah, certainly the Hellhound is rivals the Sentinel, but it's also 40 points more expensive and doesn't have that pregame move. So, I guess I'm not totally sold on the Hellhound as a replacement for that battlefield role.
Well, I guess I'm looking at it as from more the point of trying to fill those brigade slots to where you're trying to get the extra combat points. And we need to talk about that a little bit today, too, about the Death Guard FAQ, to where they released something about Chaos Space Marines and Death Guard and how it's going to apply to every codex that comes out. I think that FAQ is going to expound past that. So when you're trying to get extra command points. But I like the Hellhound and for that fact that it can put out more reliable damage than the Sentinel.
That is certainly true. It is much more reliable in terms of for hurting your opponent than a Sentinel wandering around with BS4, usually BS5.
You're hitting on a 5. You got
hitting on a 5 if it moves, yeah.
And the Hellhounds, they don't have any transport capacity, right?
They do not have any transport. When we talked about the last cannon, how streaky the last cannon is, I believe that the Melta Cannon on this thing is a little bit more reliable as far as damage dealing goes.
D3 shots just gives you a lot more wiggle room within the dice, right, as opposed to a single shot. So functionally, you have the same range, especially, you're taking this, take, for example, best case scenario, you're taking this Destroyin' Hellhound. Well, now that becomes a 30-inch range Melta Cannon shot. Because it's a heavy weapon, so plus 6 inches.
It's an assault weapon now, isn't it?
Oh, you're right. That's right. Now it's assault. Pardon me.
It's a 24-inch assault weapon, though, so that does factor into a lot of people's or relevant dogmas.
Yeah.
How about the Talarn, for example? Don't they have something about advancing and shooting normally?
They can move and shoot as if they didn't move.
Okay, but it doesn't have anything to do with advancing.
Let me tell you, I was chatting with Ricky a little bit before the show about how we were trying to scheme on making Vendettas good, but they do not get the regiment ability.
We were 2 seconds away from buying every Vendetta kit that we could find, I think. Yeah. Oh, well, not worth talking about because I just want to cry now.
It's because the Flyers don't get the regiment special rule.
Yeah, they're Aeronautica Imperialis.
Yeah, that's what it is. So the Talarn is good, though. It is actually very good and has applications past what we talked about, but it won't work on Flyers.
One day they'll mess up and give us a Flyer that'll be Talarn, and then we're going to shoot stuff. Until then, not doing it with Vultures and Vendettas.
Yeah, now you're just shooting things with other things.
Yeah, tanks are better now.
You poor soul.
I think the Chimera body, with its ability to do things like assault multiple units, be able to get up in people's face, I think there's a lot of value there, and that the Hellhound itself was really good in 5th. I don't know if you guys remember how awesome like the Hellhound and the Chem Cannon. What's the Chem Cannon version?
That's the Bane Wolf.
The Bane Wolf, yeah. The Bane Wolf and all those variants were very good in previous editions, like in Antiquity. And I think they've done a good job of ramping them up to be pretty good in this edition with these additional rules outside of, and a modification of what the index had.
Yeah, I mean, I have two Hellhounds. I used them in 6th and 7th, for just kind of like casual games, and they were fun then. So it'll be fun to try these out. I've got them already, so I'm not trying to have to build them and do everything to play test them. I'm kind of excited to get them on the table and see if the Inferno Cannons will do any good.
It honestly kind of reminds me of the Lehman in that you took a unit that wasn't particularly competitive and you've changed the rules just enough so that it's a viable option. It's not auto include at the highest level, but anytime you can make a player or a list builder think twice about a unit they would have previously never even taken a moment's notice of, I think that's a win for the codex and a win for the game, because you're going to get unit variation, and anytime you get unit variation, that changes people's metas and it changes things that everyone has to account for. I think
that's the hardest thing,
Andrew.
I think that is really the hardest thing, is because like in previous editions you knew that the path to victory went through XYZ codex, and now the path to victory is like you
everything that has a codex.
Well, fair, but prior to today, when people are going to be hearing this stuff, Guard was still viable. But you know what I'm saying? Like there was a path to victory. You know that you were going to have to go through. I need to plan for fighting Space Wolves. I'm talking like 3rd edition. I need to plan for fighting Space Wolves. I need to plan for fighting Necrons. And if I can't beat either one of those, then I'm not winning the tournament.
Yeah, I think the more things change, the more things stay the same. There's certainly those lists, those armies right now that exist that you have to plan and account for. Guard being one of them, right? I mean, there's a couple websites, Blood of Kittens and a couple of those other websites that like aggregate tournament results. You just click through them and you see. I mean, most of the GTs right now are being won by Imperial Guard lists. They are, no question, the alpha dog of the 40k universe.
They're the Eldar of this edition.
Right. And that doesn't mean they can't be beaten. Obviously, they can be beaten. They have their weaknesses, and depending on who's driving the list, that changes things dramatically. Ultimately, Guard are the Eldar of 8th edition so far. What I think my takeaway from Paul's point about the Hellhound is that within the Guard kind of you're kind of game planning against Guard for a more static gunline type list. And so if you're game playing, I know I'm going to have to play against the Guard archetype, so then you plan for it, and then you run into a Guard player like Paul who's running Hellhounds and fast Sentinels and some of these other, or Ricky with, I think Ricky wants to play with Vendettas. I'm not sure exactly sure. But
that's
something
what
like
we
that.
picked up from the subtext of this episode, is that Ricky would like to play with the Vendettas.
Exactly.
Elysians are kind of dead to me since the book came out. So until Elysians get better, I think I'll have tanks on the table. Continue though.
Well, I just am wrapping up with the notion that I think that within each book, you have a lot of variable list designs and viable unit types. You can play with tanks, you can play gunline, you can play psyker spam, you can do a lot of stuff with the Guard book. I think that's good, that's healthy, and hopefully we see that kind of proliferation through all the other codexes as well.
Some of the super heavies in this codex also got a bump to their weapons, like they got an extra D6 added to their weapons, and I think that may, like, we've kind of joked about them being like the ultimate counter assault vehicles is a Baneblade with 4 heavy flamers on it.
Or can't you put like 8 heavy flamers on a Baneblade?
It's just 4. No, the sponsons come with a las cannon and then your choice of heavy bolt or heavy flamer.
But it's 2. It's a twin heavy flamer in each sponson. So when you put 4 sponsons, that's 8 heavy flamers. That's why it's the ultimate counter assault unit, is because you're hitting people with 8 heavy flamers when they assault you.
Yeah, it is. The twin heavy flamers on these things is heavy 2d6, so 8-inch range. So that matters. But I know I'm jumping around, but the fact that these super heavies actually got a little bit better with the addition of a lot of their weapons got an additional d6 number of shots added to them. The heavy flamer's not one of them. I'm talking about the main battle cannons.
Did the main battle cannons need more shots? My goodness, some of these things are insane.
The Baneblade cannon is now heavy 3d6.
Oh
yes!
My gosh.
Yes! Better stock up on those in the store.
Well, it's strength 9, -3 AP, 3 damage.
Jeez.
That's you're going to see a lot of Catachan Baneblades, if I'm not mistaken.
Catachan's already had Baneblades.
Yeah, they're going to have more.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But now they reroll variable hits. Right?
Yes, now if you roll 3 1s, you're gonna roll better than 3
You
1s.
can command point one of those, and then Catachin Regiment trait one of them, and then you went from I rolled 3 1s, now I rolled 2 6s and a 1, and I'm destroying stuff.
That you bring up a good point though, Andrew, about how you can spread out some of your army benefits with the fact that command points and then your regiment ability, you're stacking them without actually stacking them.
Yeah, just because I can reroll one of my dice with my regiment benefit doesn't mean I can't reroll the other one with command points, right? They're not preclusive of each other. So
yeah, you're not rerolling the same die twice.
Correct. Yeah, especially with those 2d6 variables. So like, la-ti-da, look at me. I'm doing plenty of damage and re-rolling all the dice I need to without duplicative results or duplicative rules. So very, very strong there, no doubt.
Please excuse our Catachin bias. That is one of the openly aggressive special rules. I think that it's easy to look at that and say that's going to benefit things and that's going to skew results.
Well, I think it's just the easiest one to talk about. It's when we're talking about weapons and this and that, it's just very easy to look at the Catachin rule and see how it just is going to affect the game. That Valhallan one, which I think is just as fantastic, especially on these Baneblade chassis, it's a little more subtle. You just have to kind of see how that one plays out.
Real quick before we move on from that point, I think, Ricky, what you just hinted at bears delving into. If you're going to take a super heavy with these regimental traits, you're trading off offensive output a la Cadian, Catachin, Vestroyan versus defensive power a la Mordian or Valhallan, right? If you want to reroll ones in Overwatch with a Baneblade, especially the Vulcan Mega Launcher, that becomes a problem. Or hitting on 5s with a Vulcan Mega Launcher in Overwatch, that becomes a really huge issue.
Did you say Ogren Launcher?
Yeah.
I don't know if you said that, but that's what I heard.
The Vulcan Mega Bolter is what you're saying.
Mega Launcher is what I said. It's Mega Bolter, that's right. But so there are clear trade-offs, right? You've got these regiments that are defensive, and then these are regiments that are offensive. I don't know which one is the right choice if you're playing super heavies, but there's something we said for, hey, I get to reroll one of my D6 every turn as a Baneblade with my main cannon, and then this guy over here is like, yeah, but you're going to be hitting on 5s pretty soon because I'm going to degrade you in the first 8 wounds or 10 wounds. Whereas the Valhallan guy is like, I'm going to be shooting at BS4 the whole freaking game because you need to do 20 wounds before I degrade. That's pretty. I think if you're going to take super heavies, I actually think Valhallans are the way to go.
I like that we can have this discussion, and remember though that everything's per detachment. So you could take a detachment. Like this has come up a lot with AdMech. If you guys listen to the AdMech show that we just did with Jeff last week, but he talks about how mixing 2 different Forge Worlds in his army still gets you all the detachment bonuses, but also the faction benefits from having multiple detachments.
Can I just say, just a little off topic here, but I listened to that interview, and man, that guy knows that book. That book has not been out long enough for anybody to know that book as well as he knows that book.
That's why we had him on. Yeah,
that guy is no joke. But absolutely, I was talking to my buddy the other day about this very thing. I was like, well, just have that Valhallan detachment sitting in the backfield and let them sit on objectives with OBSEC Lehman Russes or your super heavies, and then you have maybe some Talons pushing forward to get those midfield or backfield objectives. There's all these things you can do. You don't have to say my entire army's Cadian, my entire army's Valhallan. You can have a unit. You can have a detachment of Valhallans. You can have Cadians. You can have Vostroyans. You can mix and match all of these regiments in those detachments and have each of them do what they do best and work together instead of just having to go with a mono build. The sky's the limit right now for Astra Militarum.
Please model appropriately.
Oh yeah. Do not do this with all Cadian models. I'll be very disappointed.
Well, I'm not going to judge people on their modeling choices. I'm just saying model appropriately. Because you don't want to create any confusion for your opponent.
He's not judging you. He's just judging you.
I will unpretentiously judge you.
I will point at you and shake my head disapprovingly.
No. If you show up at Warzone and you're like, I've got all these Cadians and they're actually Valhallans, and then these Cadians over here painted a different color are actually Talon, I will literally follow you around the whole event chanting shame like Game of Thrones.
With the bell and
Look,
everything.
Shame.
The
shame,
different color
shame.
choices that's a nod and that's an act of respect. So I'm not going to openly judge people. I'm saying that you should seek the appropriate models. But let me jump to talk about a couple of these relics. I want to talk about, was it Kurov's Aquila, which has been a favorite of yours in the past, Andrew, and then the Dagger of Tusak, which is a new one, and I believe that it's got some pretty compelling rules.
When I hear something called the Dagger of Tusak, I immediately think, well, where is the Sword of Teshu?
Is that a Klingon reference?
Went over my head. It's not Klingon.
It's a podiatry pun. It's Tusak and Teshu.
Oh.
It's a foot pun.
Oh, Andrew, I appreciate you so much right now.
I got you.
The Kurov's Aquila. Officers only, and that's important because a lot of relics, that they've replaced something or you just give them to somebody, a character in the army. But this is officers only. Each time your opponent uses a stratagem, roll a d6. On a 5+, you gain 1 command point. That's when your opponent uses something, you roll a d6 and steal command points.
This is get out of my house powerful. This will be in every single guard codex, guard list, full stop. Whether it's the free one or you burn a command point, it will pay for itself by turn 3 guaranteed. So just take it. No questions asked. It is so strong.
This is like the 40k equivalent of like police looking for evidence in the garbage. It's like, oh, he's not using it anymore. Well, just, this is ours now. He threw it away.
Little dumpster dive of command points.
It's especially
It's true.
insulting.
It's exactly true. It's basically like a groggy magistrate judge just passing out warrants. Like, yeah, judge, we really need to go inspect his trash can. Okay, fine. Just let me go back to sleep. And then this happens. This is spectacular. It's strong.
It's going to be especially painful when they use that command point to re-roll a 1 that re-rolled a 1.
On your own command point.
Look,
Yeah,
we need to form an official support group. Somebody needs to form a group on Facebook of re-rolls, command points that result in duplicate 1s.
We need to get some kind of teary violin track to play with people and pictures of their dice.
And then a subset of that group is when someone harvests your command point for themselves on a 5+.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think that, people who bring this should be prepared to be punched in the face.
It's gonna be infuriating. I've burned through, and it's difficult to conceive of with most guard lists taking 8, 9, 10, 12 command points. But I burned through those in the first 2 or 3 turns in a normal game because I run hot, right? I mean, we talked about that when 8th edition first came. I think Paul and I remember we basically had this giant agree fest where we were like, hey, yeah, command points, use them while you got them. They're not gonna if you
burn them
if
to
you
win the
save,
game, right?
Burn them to win the game. If you save them and end up losing in the process, they're like timeouts in a football game. You don't want to go into the locker room with timeouts. Well, now it's this safety thing where, I don't have to worry about X, Y, Z because you're out of command points or you only have 1 command point left. Well, you better not use one there, duder, because if you do, there's a 33% chance I'm going to have more command points than you were counting on.
Well, think about this. Some of these command points and stratagems or whatever are 2 command points. So if you get down to 1 and then your opponent gives you that extra one to use the more powerful one, that's like insult to injury.
Oh, huge. And it says you roll every time your opponent uses a command point.
Well, it's a stratagem. Every time you use a stratagem.
It's like twisting the knife of Tashak.
So
The dagger, it's a dagger, Chris.
Dagger of Tashak, sorry.
So clarify for me then, Paul. So I roll once per my opponent's stratagem.
Stratagem, yeah. Not command points, stratagem. So if they burn a 3-point stratagem, you still
I still roll once.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now, will this let you? There's nothing in the verbiage that says that you can't go over your starting command points, right? So you could.
You gain 1 command point on a 5+.
Yeah. So if I'm going second and my opponent uses 3 command points and 3 stratagems in his turn, I could potentially be +3 command points from when I started the game.
This doesn't say anything about when the game is started or in the battle round or whatever. This just says each time your opponent uses a stratagem, roll a d6 on a 5+, you gain 1 command point.
Whoop! You reroll to seize.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I'm going to use the one to re-roll right off the bat. It's good.
Seems not the worst.
So the dagger I'm talking about, I like this a lot. I actually just put this in a bonus tip or bonus information when I was talking about Hellhounds on YouTube. During deployment, you can set up the bearer and one infantry unit from your army behind enemy lines instead of placing them on the battlefield. The infantry unit must have the same regiment keyword as the bearer if the bearer has one. At the end of any of your movement phases, the units can launch their daring attack. Set them up within 3 inches of each other. That means the units have to be placed within 3 inches of each other. Anywhere on the battlefield that is wholly within 6 inches of any battlefield edge and more than 9 inches away from any enemy models.
That's it, right there. There's my Bulgrins getting into close combat, turn 1.
It's infantry unit. It doesn't say...
They're infantry.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. It does not infantry squad, right? An infantry unit.
Yeah, infantry, the capital letter keyword infantry.
Gotcha. Okay, so Ogrins and Bulgrins are both infantry. So... we might actually see Ogrins make it into an assault.
Well, I'm glad you're excited about Ogrins, but let's talk about the character you put this on, and I'm talking about an Astra Militarum tank commander.
Yep.
I need you right now to quote unquote forge a narrative in which that tank commander pulls this off. Go.
Well, we know
Ricky's going to be in his bunk.
Well, we know in history, even our own history, we have shrewd tank commanders that have been able to kind of creep up over a hill and maybe not relay their position until they're already firing. So, I can get behind this.
Oh yeah, I'm totally going to get behind it.
But I'm just saying,
what tank with a tank commander?
It's a okay. Exactly. Which one do you pick? Right, the Punisher has a shorter range than most other tanks.
Could mow some people down there.
And the Executioner,
the autocannon one.
No,
the plasma.
The plasma Executioner. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real value of this is definitely in the Punisher, right? That's the 24-inch range. It's the shortest range gun. I mean, even the plasma Executioner is that range is a foot longer than the Punisher cannon, right? So
it is.
That's the next shortest range weapon, and even that's pretty dank. I think
well,
there's an argument.
Demolisher's 24.
Demolisher, right? I think the next argument is to be made for the Demolisher because you come on. If you come onto the board less than 5 or fewer inches, that means you could shoot this thing twice, right? That's the way that the turret rules work. So you can conceivably roll onto the edge.
I think that's weird. Do you think that's the way it works? I mean, and I'm asking this as a purely inquisitive thing because during deployment you can set the bearer up and one infantry unit behind enemy lines. And then at the end of any of your movement phases, these units can launch their daring attack, set them up within 3 inches of each other anywhere on the battlefield, wholly within the table edge. So you're setting them up, you're not moving them. Do you think that qualifies as the double shot?
I think, but
yeah,
it says
set up, right?
I think it does. I think because the way that the double shot thing says, you have to move half or less in the preceding movement phase, right? So, just the common sense part of me, if I'm the TO in this event and the rule says you can set them up within 3 inches of each other and within 6 inches of any board edge, right? So that says to me that you can't, quote unquote, set up or move farther than 6 inches from a board edge. So I would say, hey, if you move less than 5 inches from a board edge, then you get a double shot.
You're not moving. I think it's important to say that you're not even moving. You're setting up.
So then I think then, like I said, either way, you're going to get the double shot.
They should
right?
They should set up and still be able to move because you're setting it up, right? Does it say
it
at
says
the
you
end
set
of
them
the
up at
phase?
the end of the movement phase?
Okay, my bad. So yeah, they're set up. Did they come on? Are they on the table, or they start off the table and then you set them up on your turn when you
start off the table and then you get to place them at the end of any of your movement phases. These units can launch their daring attack. Set them up.
Yeah, you're
wholly
set
within
up.
3
So
inches
you're not
of each other, anywhere on the battlefield that is wholly within 6 inches of any battlefield edge.
Yeah, that's a double shot because they're set up. It doesn't say anything about moving them.
So if that's the case, then you're looking at a bajillion shots with the Punisher cannon, or 2d3 really devastating shots with the Demolisher cannon. And I think that's the value of those close range weapons. and then what you take in the sponson, I think if you're going to take a tank commander that does this, right, the beauty of the tank commander is that it hits on 3s.
Let me read the grinding advance just so everyone is on the same page here. The Lehman Russ tank's sturdy frame allows it to keep up a fearsome rate of fire even if it advances on the foe. If the model moves under half speed in his movement phase, i.e. moves a distance in inches that is less than half his current move, it can shoot its turret weapon twice in the following shooting phase.
Yeah, I guess when I first heard this relic rule, I was thinking you move it on from board edge. But if you're just setting it up, then I think there's a good rules as written argument to be made that it didn't move; it just popped out of nowhere. By that I mean
my favorite tanks are the tanks that pop out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is the 8th edition equivalent, and I think I made this joke to Paul when he told me about it, of people just yelling "Creed!" Just tanks popping out of nowhere.
There he is.
Baneblade popping out of a swimming pool. Oh wait, no, it's in your bathroom. Now it's in your glove compartment.
I'm okay with it. And what's the name of this rule again?
It's a relic.
Oh, it's the relic that allows that. Okay.
It's the Dagger of Tusak.
Okay.
This, coincidentally, is an Attilan Rough Rider relic that has been passed down. Once the Attilan general died and is no longer available in 40k, he passed along his relic to any other general.
Y'all, I'm going to dip. Y'all have a good night. I'm out of here. I'm done with this show.
Twisting that dagger. Yeah.
The actual dagger.
The actual dagger.
All right. The Tusak Khan of the Second Attilan Rough Riders was known as a particularly cunning and bold commander.
I think we should move on.
Tell it. I want to hear the story.
With an almost preternatural ability to find the perfect time and place to strike. On his deathbed...
Oh, so when Games Workshop wrote him out of the Codex. Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah, keep going.
He dedicated that his ornate dagger be gifted to an ally as a gesture of respect.
Because he was no longer available. Interesting.
It does go on to say over the decades since it's been passed down or whatever, but that's one of the things that people have actually brought up is that the characters in the book here are human characters, and that if we're advanced 100 or 200 years in the future, some of these folks shouldn't be alive.
Yeah, I think I made that point last week when we saw that several of the guard characters. I mean, I never really expect Yarrick to die. I think that we can we all agree that that's kind of safe territory?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. But someone like, other humans, I have a little bit of a questionable credibility when it comes to them being alive. This, despite knowing rejuvenate treatments and all the other narrative reasons that humans stay alive for a long time, not all of them are going to do that, especially over 100 years of war. Just saying.
I mean, the odds are against you.
Well, I stand with the fact that you can take your battle can take place during any period, and there's been many a character that has been in a book that has since passed, like even Blood Angel characters who
Tycho
had already died are still available as choices for your army.
It's a weird wash with the narrative, and then like what time does your game take place? I will say that I think generally I would love to see more named characters in the Imperial Guard universe. Within each and every Astartes book, or even the Chaos book, you see 4, 5, 6. I mean, the Blood Angels have 9, 10 named characters,
and they've cut some out.
Yeah,
they've cut some out, and that's not counting. That's not counting Forge World. I mean, if you look at the Forge World stuff, every chapter has a named character. They have some cool rule you can build around. The Ultramarines have 6, 7 named characters, so on and so forth. When you look at the Imperial Guard book, you're like, all right, well, you've got Yarrick, you've got Pask, and
those are the only two that matter.
Well, Creed.
You got Harker. Yeah. I like Harker.
There you
Harker
go.
is amazing.
What about Nork Deadog?
But most people
Diabetes.
People know Nork, but they don't know Harker, and they don't know who's the other guy in Catechins. I mean, they not Sly.
Strachan.
Yeah, they don't know Strachan. They don't know those guys.
So
I love Strachan.
I'm a Catechin player, and I couldn't immediately think of his name.
Exactly. I mean, really, it just kind of it's Creed, Pask, and Yarrick are the big three, and you got the big bumbling bodyguard, you got Strachan and Marbo, but like really, you're talking about you can count the named characters on one hand. There's a 4, 5, 6, maybe a half dozen Imperial Guard characters, named characters. And I think that's honestly something that would be awesome if we could see that expanded, especially in the Forge World books. I mean, if you look at the Space Marine Forge World book, there's 30 entries for unique Space Marine characters.
A quarter of that is characters.
Characters, just probably 30 or 40 named characters from all variants of different chapters that you can build lists around if you want to build this particular successor chapter. That's really exciting to me, and I think you could accomplish the same thing with Imperial Guard. Anyway, I don't mean to wish list. I just think that's interesting.
No, it's fine. I mean, these are human. These are the most human. I think we kind of equate ourselves with when we're thinking about the fantasy as being Space Marines, but we're probably closer to Imperial Guard guys.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, humans love heroes, right? That's why we worship football players. I would love to see more named characters.
Hey guys, let's take a quick break. I'm actually going to have a word from one of our sponsors from the Table of Ultimate Gaming. We're going to have a segment where we talk about their campaign and some of the things that they had going on, and then how you can still be a part of it even if you didn't make it on their Kickstarter. And then we'll come back and talk about some of the events that we're running and some of the questions that we've got and some of the events that are going on out there in the country for the last part of the year. Anyway, hold tight, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Right on.
I need that table.
Frontline Gaming is excited to announce that tickets are now on sale for the LVO 2018. Taking place January 26th through the 28th at Bally's Casino in Las Vegas, the event will feature gaming, seminars, and social events. Don't wait, get your tickets at lasvegasopen.net today.
Hey everybody, welcome to a very special segment of Forge Narrative. My name is Paul, of course, and I got Pat Meyer.
Hello, how you doing?
Now, Pat, we've been talking about you at the Table of Ultimate Gaming.
That's right. Yeah, we've started to spread that name around a little, I think.
Not just a slogan.
That's right.
It's awesome, man. We've been following your journey on Kickstarter for the last 30 days or so, and right now, at the time of this recording, you've got a few hours left, and I think by the time people hear this, the campaign will have closed, but you've already crossed the $1 million mark.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's taken a little bit for that to sink in, and I think it's still sinking in. But we're obviously thrilled and humbled by the response, and just really excited to have met and talked to all the people that we have so far, and we're just getting started. So,
well, it's an exclusive club. I mean, not everyone just throws something on Kickstarter and brings this type of number.
Gosh, you know what? That's actually true that you bring it up. There's a statistical page right on Kickstarter. And something along the lines of, since they started about 7 years ago, there's been about 360,000 campaigns. About 150,000 have funded to whatever the minimum goals were that the campaign managers created. And out of that 150 or 160,000 that have funded, only about 240 campaigns have gotten over $1 million in there. So it's like 0.08%. I probably have the math wrong, but it's definitely a great club to be in. And that being said, as excited as we are, I think people that have gotten to know us, Jamie and I, my partner, and the rest of the team, they know that while there's certainly some time to be excited and share that excitement with everyone, we're pretty sober about the realities and the opportunity to get these things delivered on time and meet those type of expectations, because that's the other side of Kickstarter, isn't it? There's the front end side, and then where a lot of people do fall down is on the back end side. So I think we put together a team to ensure, hopefully, a great front end campaign, and then certainly at the back side of that, just as or more important is the delivery side on the back end. So,
well, I know this is your first Kickstarter, but this is not your first product that you've delivered to people.
No, that's right. Yeah, Jamie McBain, my partner, and I, we've been in the consumer products industry for over 20 years each, and we brought hundreds of products to market in toys, infant products, things for families, and probably have sold products into 70 or more countries around the world. It was a great opportunity, and I think very important for us to launch this product line, and we needed the energy and the input and the financial support from the Kickstarter community to launch what is Wood Robot, this company's Table of Ultimate Gaming line. And we received that energy, and we're very grateful for it. But yeah, to your point, we've brought a lot of things forward, and we know a lot about manufacturing, distribution, marketing, these types of things. And, we hope all that, what that all means is we hope that it delivers not only the best product that we can come up with, but also delivers it on time, on budget. And, really people just want to get these tables in their house and game on them, right? The Kickstarter.
Absolutely. Your videos and your testimonials have been just authentic. I think that's the best way of describing it, and it makes you want to put these in action.
Yeah, thank you. We're just, Jamie and I, we're just two Midwest guys with families, and we do have a lot of experience. And again, we hope that makes for a great campaign and great delivery. But, we're pretty straightforward guys, straight shooters. We posted up our LinkedIn profiles and our information to help establish credibility very early on. And we've tried to be very transparent and very open. And, things happen. There's changes in campaigns. And anytime that's happened, we've immediately gone out to the community. And, I think almost without exception, they've responded very well to that, because, that's how I would want to be treated. And that's the type of campaign and company that I would want to support. And we've really tried to earn people's business. And we'll continue to do that. Yeah.
Well, even you have a very active comment section on the Kickstarter page, and even after the campaign closes, people can still go and read those comments about questions that you've answered, direct questions that you've answered from either potential pledgers or people that had already pledged. And I think that's something that people, if they have questions that aren't covered in your videos, which your videos cover a lot, including like you guys testing out the tables, even stress testing the tables,
right.
and people using them, actually playing on them.
Absolutely. Gen Con happened to be a great opportunity. We kind of talk about the journey of Kickstarter early on. Gen Con was a great opportunity. We're in Chicago, so we were able to shoot down to Indianapolis and had a couple prototype tables. They were early tables, but we were happy and proud of their state as they were. And we were able to work with a couple booth folks down there and get those tables into those booths, and as a result have literally hundreds and hundreds of game demo sessions over the course of those days, and thousands of people near the tables, leaning on the tables, putting their stuff on the tables. And that was nice to see, what amounted to maybe a few years of usage on any one of those tables packed into, a number of long days. So that, I think people saw that too, and they saw them in use, and they saw us pushing that product out there to be tested, to be stressed. And that's always a great way to just make a better product.
So people can find it on Kickstarter right now, and even after the campaign closes, at the Table of Ultimate Gaming, you can search for that, and you'll see all the pictures and the various styles and whatnot. So can you give me, and I know you probably have a million thoughts in your head about the campaign, but can you give me a brief summary of the experience from when you launched, the quick ramp up to meeting your goal in moments, to where we are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, I guess no one's asked me that, and it's a great question. And as I think about it, frankly, what I think about, I think it's like you think it's a story about product, and there is a lot of product, and the community it's been a crowd-funded process, of course. That's what Kickstarter is, but it's very much been a crowd-designed process. So really, so many of the changes, the updates, the Dark Stain edition, the stretch goals, none of that was premeditated or pre-designed. Jamie and I really weren't sure what to expect. We sort of showed up with a few ideas and a few tables, and we really were lucky to have the crowd and the fans and the gamers help design what ultimately became the end of the campaign.
Gamers are a vocal bunch.
Yeah, they sure are. And I guess what I was going to say is it's a story about product, but it's really a story about people. And good, bad, or otherwise, and there's really been no bad. There's been strong opinions and a lot of gracious people and everything in between. But if I haven't met them in person, I feel like I have met so many hundreds and hundreds of people and supporters as I've seen them follow us on Facebook, and whether I met them at a show or just conversed with them, Jamie and I, on email or online or in our inboxes, and that's really been phenomenal. I think I have a much, it's amazing the size of the community and the strength of the community in tabletop gaming and board gaming, and all the different facets of it, from RPG to the guys playing 40k and the people that doing more casual gaming to, having their friends over. So in paint, the figure side and the painting. So just so many different nuances and aspects of the industry that, of course, we knew about, but it was so fantastic to gratifying to dive into it.
This is not just a 40K table, and I mean, we're a 40K show, and you do have two different table styles. You get the 3x5 and then the 4x6, and we're talking, that's play surface. You're going to see a lip or a rim on the table, but we're talking about, we just described the play surface.
That's right. So you mentioned it. So 4x6 table, 4x6 play surface, and a clear 4x6, so it fits all of the the battle tiles and the things from Citadel or otherwise people might want to use. But the 4x6 really came from the 40K community. I mean, the 4x6 did not exist at the front end of our marketing, and as we started to move towards and into the Kickstarter, it was just a strong. Of course, we knew about the community, and we I've got 40K stuff in my own home, but the strength and the fortitude of the requests to get something that was 4x6 or bigger really led us to design that. And it's a 3x5 table but bigger, and it's a beast, and it's beautiful, and but that literally came from the community. Absolutely.
Have you done the math on the number of combinations of table styles? Because you have decoration packs that people can pick and choose and even get multiple sets because they're so easy to change out. And then there's multiple table colors and tabletop colors. What is the total number of options if you've added it up?
Well, I haven't, and if I did, I would probably go crawl into a corner and
it's a lot because you've got
it's a lot.
Yeah, you've got multiple different table colors, different matte colors, so you can change, and then different decoration pack colors that people get to choose, so they can pick the one that's really right for them, or maybe matches something already in their home, or their favorite army, or favorite board game art, or whatever.
That's it. I mean, the quick thumbnail on it is, there's 3 table sizes. We call 2.4 is our smaller table, a 3.5, and a 4x6. The play surfaces and the smaller ones are actually bigger than that. But you got 3 table sizes. We're also letting people choose between coffee table, standard, or tall countertop standing height tables. So you've got natural birch, you've got dark stain, you've got black, you've got multiple table colors, and that's just the tables. Then you get into, as you say, the modular decoration, of which there's 6, 7 now, including the new steampunk themes, from dragons to Cthulhu to steampunk and more. And then on those, you've got the surface wood color, and you got the backing colors, and then you've got play mats. We've got 6 color play mats now. So the final thing then is you can combine tables. So then you have a 4x6, you can add a 2x4 to it to make a 4x8 foot table, and you can add 2 3x5s.
There's some naval and aerial combat games and some historical games that even use a bigger table than that. So
that's right. Yeah. I mean, so to your point, it's really a tremendous number of combinations, and this is just a 35-day campaign. I mean, we have a lot of fun ideas ourselves. I mean, we're just as excited as the community about all the things that this platform can deliver. And really from day one, we've, tried to explain, and we really feel strongly about this. We're not a furniture company. We never want to be a furniture company. We don't want to, our tables have full table covers, so that you can use it as a place to eat. And if you want to have it as your dining room table and you want to use it as a kitchen table or a rec room table or a full coffee table, we certainly have those full covers for that utility. But everything we actually design starts first with games, game usage, game storage, game design, and gamers in mind, because that's how we think. So we're really looking to design game systems. So, these are structural systems designed around supporting that gameplay. So it's just coming at it from a different angle.
And you've got other options. I mean, not to just be to run down all the product, but cup holders, card holders, DM screen holders. I mean, you've really thought about that. You talk about the system for a gamer. There's a lot of options already there.
That's right. I mean, we got the big pad, which was crowd designed, sort of people asking for a specific place to put their papers, their books, their iPads, their pens. Of course, our tabletops slide in for storage and create desks, but the big pad adds more space. The cup holders have integrated dice trays in them. We've got card organizers that allow you to organize all your cards. We've got the DM campaign screens. So I mean, really just we constantly just look for what are the things that are going to support that gameplay. And all of those accessories are interchangeable across all the different play table sizes. So we try to keep that modularity in place as well. So, we're seeing some people putting a 2x4 coffee table as well as a larger table in their house at this point. And the cup holders, the card organizers, the DM screens all are compatible with all that system.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, so when this campaign ends, if people haven't got in yet, how can they still get in on this and get their delivery around the same time as everyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. So the campaign, after it ends, there's going to be kind of a quiet period, I guess. I don't think it'll be too quiet internally, but where, Kickstarter is out doing their finalization after the campaign ends on their side, and we're working on the pre-release of our pledge manager. But there will be a pledge manager. The ability to configure these tables with color, shape, size, accessories is something that outstrips the software configuration ability of Kickstarter, which is quite limited, as great as the platform is. So like a lot of folks, we're using a pledge manager, and that pledge manager will come out, within 2 weeks after the end of the campaign. And at that point, that's where people can make all those detailed selections, even add additional things.
That's the next one. Could they get, because the decoration packs are modular, so you could, if the night you play in your evil campaign, you could decorate it with skulls. On the night, you're having just a regular board game, you could decorate it with the meeples or whatever.
That's right. That's what's so fun about it, too. So you don't have to feel like you're overly committed to one design table, but you can still get that very custom look. And, of course, every standard table ships with, I guess, what we would call plain or generic wood panels to cover those areas. So even if you wanted to, convert back to sort of a normal table look and go incognito.
If the in-laws were coming over.
That's right. So you don't scare the neighbors or your, the mother-in-law with the skulls on your table. That's part of it too. But that pledge manager will come out, so anybody who's pledged even at the dollar level will be able to, purchase really anything within the campaign for a short period of time. And then it's a little premature for us to know both when and at what pricing and configuration that we'll have the line out available more in an e-commerce setting, but we already have ultimategametable.com up and running, and ultimategametable.com will certainly be the new nexus in the near future, with in the next number of months for the company. And we have a lot of new exciting things we're looking to launch there, and maybe we've got another, in not too distant future, maybe even another small Kickstarter up our sleeve too, because it's just such a great way to crowd design some exciting new things we have in mind.
The stuff looks great. I love the picture of you guys standing on top of the table. It's you and your partner actually standing on top of a table.
That's right. Yeah. So Jamie and I hopped up on that's one of the 3x5s, and I say with all sincerity and honesty, if there were two more of us, we could have gotten four guys up on the other side. These are, I stress, these are designed on CAD software first. They're actually engineered, so they're engineered to be very stable, very solid before we even cut any wood. So we were very comfortable standing up there. I mean, it's just like standing on the most solid kitchen island or dining room table you can imagine. They're just that strong and that solid because we design. The computer tells us what to do, and then the robot cuts it, as we say. So everything from wood robot starts with not a clean sheet of paper, but a clean hard drive, so to speak, right, or a clean file. And we use our expertise in engineering and whatnot to start there and move through the process. So yeah, that was a fun picture, and I'm glad we did it because I think it really showcased. It's a picture is 1,000 words, right? But that really showcased the strength of the product.
I don't think we've covered half of the options on the table, and again, some of it is just power. Just things that you take for granted, maybe, or in your mind you think is not going to be there. It's there, so people should really check this out if they're in the mind for a cool gaming table, more than cool, an ultimate gaming table.
That's right. Can't tell you how much we appreciate your support and your community and really the broader community in general. We just look forward to a great future and continue to bring exciting things forward to the market.
Well, Pat, I hope we can continue to check in with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to doing that with you on a regular basis.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on the successful Kickstarter campaign. I know there's a ton of work ahead. You mentioned that quiet time. I think that's Kickstarter's processing of everything, getting ready to feed into the pledge manager.
That's right.
If as a backer of Kickstarters, I'm slightly familiar with how that goes.
Yeah.
And then you guys will be off to another set of races, getting ready for delivery.
That's right. That's the plan. Absolutely.
And you plan to be delivering soon.
Yeah, we think that the first pledges we're pretty confident we can get tables out, as we've said in the pledges, in January of 2018. There's actually some of that's just slowed down by the holiday craziness. I mean, there's getting things through a system of distribution anymore today. As holidays every year get bigger and bigger, it becomes a little less about what we can do and just what Amazon sucks up and UPS and FedEx and everybody sucks out of the the bandwidth for distribution. But we're very comfortable to get some things out after the first of the year as we get into January and February, and we're very proud of that, and we plan to do nothing but push to have not only a great campaign but a great post campaign as well.
Awesome, man. Well, I hope you get a little bit of rest before all that next phase starts.
We're trying.
Have a good rest of your night.
Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Forge the Narrative is brought to you by Dicehead.com. www.dicehead.com. Games, hobby, supplies, and comics. They have it all.
Hey everybody, we are back. I hope you guys like that segment with Pat from the Table of Ultimate Gaming. Real professionals. I mean, just hearing them talk about their process is pretty cool to me. I'm glad we're able to bring that to some folks. Still check them out if you have not already. Let's talk about some events that are coming up. We've got Warzone Atlanta coming up in November, but there's a couple of events that are happening before that I want you guys to know about.
Yeah, right on. I mean, locally here in Utah, I have my annual GT that I run, the Salt City Gladiator Games. Got that coming up this weekend. I've been very excited about that. We are currently, we've passed the ITC GT pre-entry, so our pre-sales went well above what the minimum requirement for that is. So, you never know who's going to show up the day of, but hey, all those people bought tickets, and thank you. Well, we're very excited to roll dice this weekend, and I'm actually fortunate enough to get a chance to roll dice myself. So if you guys are coming to Utah and want to buy tickets the day of, you can come roll dice with me. And then you can say, hey, I beat Chris Morgan from Forge the Narrative. I must be good at 40K.
And that's this weekend, right?
That is this weekend, yes. October 7th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And we are doing the GT on the Friday, Saturday. And there is also a narrative event on the Sunday.
I want to mention the Du Bois GT that's coming up pretty soon. This is coming up November 17th through the 19th. This is in New York. This event's been going on for many years. The Du Bois, it's one of those we use the term venerable a lot, but I don't use it casually. This gaming club has been around for a long time. This is one of the original tournament groups, the Du Bois, DABOYZ. Top-notch guys, great hobbyists, great competitors. They've been running a grand tournament for several years now, and their event is November 17th through the 19th in Henrietta, New York.
Yep. So if you couldn't get a ticket to Warzone, just turn around and go the exact other way.
Come down, try to get in on Saturday at Warzone. Go back the next week of November 17th to the 19th. You can find more info at DuBois, DABOYZGT.com, DuBoisGT.com.
How many?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like driving from the north of my state to the south of my state. That's relative distance, right? That's pretty close.
Close-ish, yeah.
You know what amazes me about all this is that there's so many. I don't even mean to put air quotes on them. It's not quote unquote GTs. It's actually full blown 40, 50 player GTs. I mean, what's the threshold to get GT status for
the ITC? I think it's 30 something for
28's the minimum for the GT. 58 is the major.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
The Du Bois GT has multiple events. It has singles, doubles events, Warhammer Fantasy, X-Wing. They have multiple events going on at that thing. I mean, it's a real hobby convention.
And that's been going a while, right? Because I've heard of Du Bois for the whole time I've been in the hobby.
They're great dudes, man. Great dudes. I mean, real competitors, but they're 40K gamers, man. It's like 40K royalty almost. Is they're fun to hang out with, fun to play against, and really bring their A game at the hobby level. So they have great looking armies. They're cutthroat. Don't get me wrong. It is a brutal battle when you play them, but you're going to be playing against great looking armies against cool dudes.
Sweet.
Yeah, but that is November 17th through the 19th. Now, Ricky, I'm going to be up at your place pretty soon.
Yeah, not quite a GT, however, but my store, I guess the past 2 years since we've been selling and playing and everything with our club, the Tryhards, Warzone Prep Tournament is our big event for the year. So that's how important Warzone Atlanta is to us, is that our prep tourney is our biggest event. But on October 7th, we're having our tournament. We're running all the rules rules and missions for Warzone Atlanta there. So it's basically a dry run for Warzone Atlanta. So if you are super desperate to get in some games and want to drive to Scott County, Virginia, definitely look up our club, facebook.com/tryhardsgaming, TRI, not TRY. And then our events are right there, and hopefully I'll get Paul to post it up as well. But we're going to be giving away a lot of prizes. We will also be giving away the Andrew Whitaker Memorial Rough Riding Into the Sunset Award for whoever brings the most Rough Riders to the tournament.
Andrew, I need to borrow some Rough Riders.
Well, you can die in the fire.
But it'll be a lot. It'll be a lot of fun. We always have fun running it. So yeah, definitely hit me up if you are remotely interested in coming, and we'll hook you up with all the info you need.
I'm going to be playing. It's going to get some cool people from the East Coast and the Southeast specifically in that tournament. We kind of put the word out. We're going to be playing some. Obviously I'm not prepping for Warzone since I can't play in the Warzone Atlanta event, but I am going to be coming up, try to have a good time, and I'm bringing a competitive list.
Good. That's what we want. Please don't bring fluffy lists. It's or not. I don't want to say fluffy.
My
but
list
soft
is
list.
fluffy
and hard hitting. Yeah. Don't bring soft lists thinking it's a small store tournament, because most of our players go to GTs and stuff. So we are accustomed to getting our faces kicked in by a strong list. So it doesn't hurt our feelings at all. But
I'm looking forward to it. Me and a buddy are going to come up Friday night, stay the night, play Saturday, and then probably come back that Saturday night. But I'm really looking forward to it. Want to roll some dice and see what your store's about, man.
Yeah, it's always fun to see people driving in to Scott County, because we got people coming in from Virginia Beach, Knoxville, usually coming from Lynchburg and Atlanta for 2 years now. So it oddly draws people in, which is fun.
It's a lot of banjo music and good times.
Well,
sure.
We do have the Carter Fold there. It's kind of like the home place of country music. It's a big deal.
I want to talk about a little bit about Warzone Atlanta and our Friday night events. We have multiple 40K events going on in Warzone Atlanta this year. And on Friday night, we have a couple of kind of like Beat the Masters, little singles event things where people can register and try to beat some of the folks that are well-known tournament players in the Southeast. But we also have a narrative apocalypse event. So if you want to have a little bit less of a stress type of 40K experience, still with the Warzone feel, with our bars and our cool environment and whatever, we're going to have the narrative apocalypse event run by the guy that runs the largest apocalypse event in the country, named Alec Peters, a good friend of the show, who you've heard on several times on this show in the past. And we're also going to have the 3-man Friday night Fracas. This is a test event for one that we're going to have. The Forge Narrative is going to have in February. It's going to be a 3-man team event, and I want to talk just a little bit about that. Where 3-man team events, it's not like Adepticon. It's not like the ATC. Those things are absolutely amazing in their own things. Where Adepticon is 4-man, ATC is 5-man. This is a 3-man team event where you nominate a member on your team that is your defender, and the other 2 are strikers. And then the pairings for each round, the defender gets to pick from among the strikers who he faces. So that's the kind of the twist on this thing, is that each defender will get to pick who his opponent is, and then the remaining strikers will pair off against each other in a way. But I think this is going to be a neat twist on a team event, a 3-man team event, where you can kind of load up some of your defense and plan on things, with that striker versus defender mechanic.
I plan on getting drunk and going 0-3 in this event, but I will totally be in this event.
You can be the defender and just hope for the best.
I need about 300 conscripts.
It is a 1,250 point tournament. The one we do in February, which will be the Valentine's Day Massacre, that is what we're going to do in February. But that will be a 2K event per person. But the one on Friday night at Warzone is going to be a 1,250 per person event. I don't know how many conscripts you can get on that, but a lot. I mean, it's going to be a lot.
It's going to be more than I own, so I need to borrow some.
We're going to prize as deep as we possibly can. The reason I'm bringing up these Friday night events is because tickets are still on sale for these Friday night events. So while the Saturday and Sunday event is sold out, you can still get on the wait list, but tickets are still available for these Friday night events. And I hope if you guys are coming to check it out, if you're coming to participate in the grand tournament, that you are able to participate in the Friday night events as well.
Half the fun of Warzone Atlanta is the Friday night before everything kicks off. I mean, I've had some fun down there before everybody even arrives. So definitely get there and play some games.
There's an X-Wing event also. I mean, last year we had the Combat Patrol 30K event, which we're not doing because 30K is a little bit in flux this year. But we also had an X-Wing event, but we're bringing back the X-Wing event. These are tickets that are still on sale for Warzone Atlanta. I hope people can make it in and take advantage of them. The 3-man event is something brand new, and we hope you have fun playing in it. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna try to prize really well for that, in addition to everything else that we're doing that weekend.
Sweet.
As promised, let's talk about the Psychana Discipline. This is the psychic powers for the Imperial Guard in the Astra Militarum Codex.
I think it's awesome. Not awesome. It's just cool that most of these psychic power groups, and we saw it in Grey Knights, we saw it in Chaos, we're now seeing it again in IG, where 3 powers in the Index, 6 powers in the full-blown Codex.
Well, they ramp up
really
some
good.
of the strength too. I mean, like, I'm really excited about what we're going to see for Blood Angels and some of these other things. Like, I mean, Dark Angels, for instance, haven't had a full-blown psychic tree in the past, I don't think. And it's going to be cool to see where they go with that, because these kind of expound upon the theme of the armies.
Well, what do you mean by the theme of the armies?
Well, they kind of, I guess, are in line. Like, let me just go over a couple of them. Like, for the first 3 are Terrifying Visions. That's the one that subtracts 2 from the leadership of the start of an enemy unit from the start of your next turn. I think that's in the Index. The Gaze the Emperor, where on a 4+, the model suffers a mortal wound. It's the beam that does 2d6 range. And then the Psychic Barrier, that until the start of your next Psychic phase, add 1 to the unit's saving throw. That's all stuff that's in the Index, right?
Yes.
The next power is Nightshroud. If manifested, choose an Astra Militarum unit within 12 inches of the Psyker until the start of your next turn. Any enemy unit that targets the chosen unit with a ranged weapon suffers a -1 penalty to its hit rolls.
That's really good. You combine that with smoke launchers, combine that with the Shield of the Emperor, the other psychic power that gives +1 to your saving throws.
Psychic Barrier.
Excuse me. Yeah, thank you. This power combined with Psychic Barrier plus smoke launchers means I can potentially force a high value unit a la, I don't know, a Baneblade, where my opponents are -2 to hit me.
Your Malcador Infernus that you used in the battle report recently.
Yeah. Don't give away my secrets, but definitely Infernus. You're -2 to hit me and I'm +1 to my saving throws. That is the hotness.
And what I mean by that kind of enhancing the theme is that I think that these psychic powers are stuff that it does enhances the overall units that you can use, that you can build. You could build around some of the effects of some of these things with things that are in the Codex, and I think it complements them well. That's what I really mean. The next one is Mental Fortitude. Mental Fortitude has a warp charge value of 4+. If manifested, select a friendly Astra Militarum unit within 12 inches of the Psyker until the start of your next phase. That unit automatically passes morale test.
What was the range on it?
12 inches. 12 inches from the Psyker.
Yeah. And it's a manifest on a 6? On a
manifest
4.
on a 4.
Wow.
God, that'll hurt your heart if you fail that one, won't it?
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty normal for Paul and myself.
Paul's known as not cast by Morgan and Murphy.
That is so powerful. That basically says I can now buy a Primaris Psyker instead of a Commissar if I want my conscripts to survive, right? And then I don't even have to shoot one of them. They just on a 4+, those conscripts will not run. That's really low-key strong.
Well, think of it as a command point multiplier also. Like, you'll never have to burn 2 of those command points you might have had to burn before.
I kind of like it a little more on your more elite units, because, it hurts more when you lose one of those. So on a squad of veterans or something, that could be really good.
The next one is Psychic Maelstrom. Psychic Maelstrom has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select an enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker, roll a d6 on a 2+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. Unless this mortal wound is negated, then that's important. Unless this mortal wound is negated, and I assume that means either through like a feel no pain or disgustingly resilient or whatever, you can then roll another dice. On a 3+, that enemy unit suffers another mortal wound. Continue this process, adding 1 to the die roll required each time. Next wound's a 4, then a 5, until you fail to cause a mortal wound or the enemy unit is destroyed.
That's
Better
fun.
get out my D12s.
You start that chain on a 7.
So
I think I like it.
and it's a 7 to cast. Is that correct?
7 to cast, yeah.
And then you start rolling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, but
So-
a unit, remember a character, there are plenty of single character units in the game right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's you're potentially sniping out a smaller character, a weaker character in one shot. That's pretty good.
Well, I want to point out that the whole not targeting characters is specifically in the shooting phase.
Shooting phase, correct.
So things that like you can potentially target a character within 18 inches with his power, even if they are not the closest target.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun with those. Going up against another guard list. That there goes a conscript or a commissar.
Yeah,
But just think about
easily.
even other things like in other lists, other little characters that cause you grief, like say that Space Marine banner bearer who's so obnoxious, or the orc Wa banner that gives everybody +1 to hit, or
An assassin.
or Dark Eldar Archon who won't frickin' fail his 2+ vulnerable saves because he's a frickin' chump, and I want those dice. But mortal wounds are a great way to take care of those guys that just won't go away.
I want to say I agree with everything you just said, and I think that's a great point with pointing out that you can target some of those problem characters. But mortal wounds are pretty good. Even with the codexes we've seen, there aren't a lot of ways to mitigate those mortal wounds at all.
Unless you're Mortarion.
Well, Death Guard
Or Death
specifically,
Guard in general.
Yeah.
had the disgustingly resilient, but not every army. I mean, there's no way to do it for most armies.
He speaks the truth.
I think I'd like to piggyback on this conversation and talk about how that, in my opinion, there's a little bit of disassociation between the point value of models and their ability to generate mortal wounds. And that's what we're seeing a little bit on the tournament. And we talked about this a couple of episodes ago, but things like Malefic Lords and Primaris Psykers, they have their point value is not, or I should say, I don't want to say isn't, but does not seem to be associated with the amount of damage that they can output.
I think that I tend to agree with this only because 8th edition is essentially unbound 40k. Let me expound on that for just a second. A single Primaris Psyker, right, over a 5-round game does about it. The math says 7.5 mortal wounds, right? Without
That's if he
casts.
if he gets all his powers off.
No. So if over a 5-round turn, if he gets every single power off, then he gets 10 mortal wounds on average. But I'm accounting for the fact that he's going to roll under a 5,
Okay.
at least once per game, so on and so forth. With command points, it's about 7.5 mortal wounds per game. At the closest enemy unit within 18 inches. That's not a ton, right? 40 points for 7 to 8 mortal wounds is not. That's very okay. Yeah,
and you're right on that. That's all they're doing. Like their last pistol doesn't factor into this math or whatever.
They've got some decent counter assault ability with the staves and everything else like that. But their primary purpose is to cast Smite, maybe cast a psychic barrier once in a while. But that's their primary purpose, right? And so at 40 points, a Primaris Psyker seems reasonable for 7 to 8 mortal wounds a turn at the closest unit, which in large part your opponent gets to dictate. They move 6 inches a turn. There's not a whole lot of like, I'm going to deep strike my Primaris Psyker over here so that he can angle onto the best smite target. No, he's going to smite the brimstone horrors that are closest.
It's a 24-inch threat range that has a limitation on being able to only target the closest model or the closest unit.
That's exactly right. And and then there's the variabilities of perils and all the rest of that stuff. But in the main, a Primaris Psyker, you're paying 40 points for 7 to 8 mortal wounds a game. Okay, that's fine. That in and of itself is commensurate with power to point cost. The issue, in my opinion, and what I think Paul was kind of talking about, is that for some of the units, the commensurate point value becomes incongruent. That doesn't line up when you're, instead of taking 1 or 2 Primaris Psychers, I'm now taking 7. Right? Andrew Gagnon famously brought 7 in his Nova Invitational list that he won both the Open and the Invitational about a month ago. He has 7 of those. Well, now we're talking about, on average, 48 mortal wounds
over the course of a game, right? Okay.
Over the course of a game, for whatever it is, 40 times.
Well, it's like 11. It's 11 per round or something like that.
Correct.
Of game turn
for under 400 points, right? In mass, that becomes. It feels like to me, and this is kind of ultimately my response to Paul, and I'll let him take it from here. But when I look at a Primaris Psyker or a Malefic Lord or something like that, in isolation, they look like they're appropriately costed. Hey, I got a Smite plus something for 40 points. Okay, that's not so bad. Suddenly you have 7 of those, and it's like, oh my gosh, that is a problem. And now they seem way too expensive in mass.
If I can maybe put a little bit of a spin on your point originally, is that the Unbound side of things, we are playing in a very permissive edition of 40K to where you can use the models that you have.
Yeah, when I say Unbound.
No, I get you. I don't want you to qualify it. I agree with you. But we have, 14 different detachments or whatever to where that they are very permissive. You can find a way to fit your models into some formalized way, battle-forged way of playing 40K. But you can also crowbar in a lot of broken stuff, a lot of overpowered stuff into some of these detachments. Now, match play does limit it to where you get 3 detachments. But there are some detachments that make it really accessible and really cheap on the points value, on the point side of taking a lot of these things, such as the Supreme Command detachment or whatever they get, or even a brigade. You can pump in a lot of brigade stuff, but then you're still getting 5 HQs or whatever.
Exactly. It practically functions like the game is Unbound, right? I mean, if somebody says, well, oh my goodness, mortar teams, Imperial Guard mortar teams, overpowered, ridiculous. Well, I guess in previous editions, they were much more palatable, or much more, you could feel the constraints. I can't put that many mortars into particular lists. Now it's like, well, I'm going to take 2 spearheads, and now I have 36 mortars. And that's only 2 of my detachments. I could put a brigade and 2 spearheads and have something like 41 mortar team, 41 heavy weapon squads. That's 123 mortar teams. There is no.
It's a recipe for
constraint.
sore wrists.
Yeah, that's true as well. But there is no actual constraint on unit combinations, right? Like, Primaris Psychers. Okay, I can take a brigade and a Supreme Command detachment, and suddenly I have 9 of them.
I put this question out on Twitter some time ago, and I don't think we're going to solve the mortar team conversation within the confines of what we're talking about right now. But I like the idea that there is a psychic power that all the psychers can cast, even if you have a psyker heavy army. I like that. I like the fact that there is something that they can do. Like the match play has, like, I can't cast 10 warp times, but I can cast 10x of something else. Smite being the case in this case, and you're right. Taking 1 off or 3 off, it's not really a big deal. I would like to see that power, whatever that power is that you can cast without limit. I would like it to see it get a little bit progressively harder to cast each time that you do it. So Smite, the first time you cast it's on a 5, the next time you cast it on a 6, the next time it's a 7, and so on and so forth. But whatever that power is, so whatever, and remember, match play. Now, I know I'm coloring outside the lines right now, so please forgive me. I'm speaking a little bit different way than we normally do, but I think that I want to state that I like the fact that each psyker has something they can do that you can count on, so it doesn't get locked out by other match play rules. But I think that Smite, in particular, the points that's currently assigned to it are disassociated with the power that it yields when you start to use it factored out to some capacity, 10 times, 5 times, 7 times, or whatever. And I think that a way to mitigate that is to make that whatever that power is that every psyker can cast every round multiple times across multiple psykers become progressively harder to cast.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like I don't want to call it wish listing, but in terms of like fixing those rules. Yeah. Fixing those rules is an interesting thing. Smite is a weird power, and it's something that we as 40k players are wildly unfamiliar with as a mechanic. It says, doesn't matter what your invuln save is, doesn't matter how tough you are, doesn't matter how high in the sky you're flying.
Can I jump in just for 1 second, just as a counterpoint to my own self, if you don't mind?
Sure.
It's like 2 Meltaguns from previous editions. Real hard to deal with at close range, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that there's no need to like really curtail it outside of what I'm suggesting, but go ahead. I just want to put some perspective.
I guess my counter to that, and the reason I don't think that that's accurate, is that in previous editions, 2 Meltaguns shooting at an Iron Hands Chapter Master with a 3-up invulnerable save and a 2-up Feel No Pain didn't give a flying flip about 2 Meltaguns.
That's fair. Very fair.
Right? That same Chapter Master, if he was to be transposed into 8th edition, would be dead. Could potentially be just flat out of the game with 2 smites. Like you're over. It's over. Statistically unlikely because of the Feel No Pains, whatever, but you just remove models. Like I just bypass your saves entirely. And so I think Smite, especially Smite spam, which we're seeing on a grand scale at the highest competitive tournament,
because it's so cheap. That's what my opinion is, that there's just disassociated point cost to the power that it yields or wields.
I think that that's true in what it's an exponent, right? You bring a single model or 2 models with Smite, okay, we get an average of 3.5 wounds a turn. Okay, that's a good like game balancing mechanic. You bring 9 smites. We have now corrupted the game and the original intent of that Smite. And so I think, to your point when you were wish listing about how it needs to get progressively more difficult to cast, that's a step in the right direction. I don't know what the right fix is. Frankly, I can't even, especially until everyone gets their codex and we see kind of how the game
That's
works
a good
out.
point too. Maybe shouldn't get too theoretical until we see everybody's codex.
Yeah, I don't want to poo-poo the kind of the abstract discussion, but generally speaking, I definitely agree that Smite is going to need to get addressed at some point, because right now you could take a 30-point Malefic Lord or a 40-point Primera Psyker, and you're very hard-pressed to find a more efficient way to spend those points. And I think that's a problem. I think that's not good.
It becomes something you absolutely must take instead of just an option.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a really good point. And this is just a point of note, match play does change the rules of the game. And I think the beautiful system that we have for 40k 8th edition allows us to think creatively, allows the designers to think creatively when they want to make tweaks, and things like match play and rules as they unfold. There's a system in place to do that already. Like the game is fine. It can withstand anything that comes up because it's not modular. It's adaptable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately the people who play this game are going to find the holes, right? They're going to find the loops.
It's what we do.
Exactly. And there's enough dice in every single game that no matter what happens, there's always a significant double-digit percentage chance that, you know what, you had a superior list and you're a better player than me, but the dice rolled the wrong way and so you're out, right? I mean, this happened to me at Warzone last year. Played against a great player, blah, blah, blah. He made 24 3+ invulnerable saves in a row. I lose. Full stop. And Dylan be the first one to say it. He'd be like, yep, I made 24 straight Storm Shield saves. There's nothing that can be done about that as far as I'm concerned. And so at the end of the day, it's a dice game, which is the ultimate trump card for all these kind of list design woes.
It is easy for us to look at the extremes, so I give you that. Well, I just want to kind of put that out there about how I think there is, in my opinion, this is just me opinion, disassociation between the points, and that the game is adjustable enough to where anything like this that comes up, we could see some changes for it.
Well, that's the whole reason. The indexes, the codex, everything was built that way. When you look at the points and everything, it was made to be almost modular so that they could go in and adjust where it needs to be adjusted. And like you said, a simple little paragraph in chapter approved or an FAQ could completely change how Smite is used in the game. So time will tell.
Malefic Lords, people are taking them.
Deal with it, or just sit around and complain about it. You know, it's one of those things. Accept that it is a part of the game and find a way to overcome it or play them and move on with your day.
That's fair. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk about finishing moves.
Sounds good.
FTN is brought to you by Bell of Lost Souls. Check out www.bols.org for the best daily hobby articles on the web.
Hey everybody, we are back. Hope you enjoyed that word from our sponsors. For the finishing move segment today, I want to talk about assembly line painting. This is there's a couple different ways we can approach this. We were talking about this a little bit in our pre-show, but the two situations that we thought were most applicable were, let's say that you're saddling up to paint an army that has 150, 200 models in it, and you want to eventually be done with it. Or the other situation is you have a tournament in 2 days and you decided you needed another squad to be the perfect counter for the meta or something. You've got to do something. And those are two different ways we wanted to come about this topic about assembly line painting.
Yeah, it's the I need to get another tactical squad done or another unit of snipers done in 2 days. Or I've lied to my wife for a year and low-key accumulated an entire orc army, and then now I need to sit down and paint these guys. Either one of those scenarios are very much like, hey, there's a way to go about this that is, one, that will do three things. It will, A, produce a quality end result, which is really all we care about. It will, B, it will be the most efficient. You will not waste brush strokes, time, effort, energy, etc. So it'll be quality end result, it will be efficient, and C, it will reduce mistakes. And you'll see as we talk about this, as we finish this segment, that when you assembly line paint, you are zeroed in on the task at hand. I know, for example, so tonight, before we got on the show, I have been painting Imperial Guardsmen, and I have a singular task, and that is I'm painting leather on boots, gloves, and satchels. And so when I'm doing that,
when you say leather, you've got, if I can just narrow us down to the assembly line painting, you have a color palette. You've got
correct
several pots of paint that you have dedicated to leather that are right in front of you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I've got my color palette. The famous wet your brush Games Workshop instructional, like make sure you water down your paints palette, and then I use Balor Brown. Is the layer paint that I used to do leather on my Vestroyan models. And that's the only thing I'm caring about right now. And I pick up the next model and I just paint the leather. I'm not worried about getting it. I'm not worried about the jackets or the face masks or the hats or the guns or the swords or anything else like that. I'm exclusively worried about this one particular feature. And when you do that, you really focus in and refine what your attention to detail is supposed to be. So ultimately, again, just to reiterate, those three things, that the benefits of painting in assembly line fashion are efficiency, quality end result, and then reduces mistakes. You're not going to mess up when you have only a single color to worry about. Nothing else is wet on the model, and you really know what parts of the particular miniature that you're painting need to get hit with.
And typically in an assembly line, you can't, when you're focusing on, like, let's say a gun pouch or what is it, some Mauser pouches or whatever on a belt or whatever. By the time you get that base coat on the 10th model, the first model is already dry. You can go back to it pretty easy.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it is, you work all the way through that color. You don't have to rinse off your brush and get out the next color and do all of those steps when you're switching colors. That's what makes assembly line painting so efficient, is that you're working with one color and you knock that color out on every single thing you have to do, and you're staying in that mindset for painting that. And repetition is the key to learning. Repetition is the key to learning. That whole thing is the more you paint that one thing, you're going to get quicker at it and better at it. So by the time you're done with it, you're knocking them out faster. And that's what makes assembly line painting so efficient, is that you've got that one color out and you work with that color. You're not having to clean your brush, get out the next color, mix it, or do whatever you need to do. You're just working with that one color on your brush, and you go all the way through that color on that model or that step. And
well, that set of models, specifically that set of models, like because when you're dealing with squads or even tanks, like a group, let's say you're painting rhinos and the exhaust ports, the top, I
hate that.
Loathe.
Worst part of any model ever to paint.
The exhaust, the things on the top of the rhinos, I can't stand them.
I painted my Lion's Blade. I did assembly line painting for Lion's Blade, so 55 Marines and 13 Rhino chassis, and I put off those stinking exhausts for as long as humanly possible. It was the last thing I did to that army was paint those things.
They look good when they're painted right. I mean, it does. It looks fine, but I absolutely hate painting them. But if you get into the routine of doing it and you're doing you're doing 10 of them at a time, it doesn't feel so bad when you're doing it that way. I don't.
Well, in my opinion, and that was one thing I wanted to say is to me it does. To me it does feel bad. It feels worse. But you have to go into assembly line painting with a different mindset. You know, it is not an instant gratification kind of thing. You know, like when you sit down and you paint a model,
that's a good point.
You're like, you paint it and it's going to take you longer to paint them individually, but you get that sense of completion when you finish that model. You can sit there and look at it and be like, oh, that's what I did today. Great, good job.
You paint his knee pads, you paint his power sword, you paint his backpack, and you're like, dang, I did a good job on this guy.
I killed it. And then you turn around and you see, 30 more of them and you're like, oh, crap. But when you do assembly line painting, you are not going to finish that painting session with a great sense of completion, but you have to be in it for you have to invest in it. But when it's done, it's great.
I think what Ricky just said is so true. Like, you have to get yourself in the right brain state to be like, all right, hey, I've got 30 Imperial Guardsmen. I need to paint these guys in the next 4 nights.
Oh, it's like you're living my life right now. I actually am going to take guard to Ricky's tournament.
Look on the Games, look on the Games Workshop website. Look how sold out every Astra Militarum model is. Everybody is living your life right now, Paul.
Exactly. And whether you're painting conscripts or meticulously detailed, Vestroyan veterans, whatever it is, you do have to get yourself in the right state of mind. But I'll say 2 things about that. The first is when you assembly line paint, my biggest encouragement to you is to say, all right, so I remember when this happened for me, right? When I started painting my Imperial Guard army and I first got into assembly line painting, I quite literally, there's a website called bartertown.com that I bought. Some guy was selling, this is 4 years ago, I bought like 150 metal Vestroyan guardsmen from him for like $6. I don't remember what I spent, but it was ridiculous, right? He was just trying to get rid of them out the door. I paid more for shipping than I did for the actual models themselves. And when I got here, I had this giant like mound of unpainted pewter. And so when I finally got them based and everything else like that, I was like, look, this is too many. I can't do 100 of these guys, but I can do 20 at a time. And so what I did is I primed 20 of them, and then I set them up in front of me. And with my then girlfriend, now wife, sitting on the couch watching Vampire Diaries, or I literally painted, all right, now I'm going to do blue. Now I'm going to do leather. Now here's the metal. Now here's the gold. Now here's the white. Now here's the gray, and all the trim notes like that.
For me, metal is the worst thing because most metal or some metals just look absolutely like garbage until you get to like that last step on them.
Until you hit the wash and a highlight, they look awful, right? And
it's so you're like gaudy. And you just look at that. Look at that model. It's punishing you. It's like piercing your soul. Like, how could you let this just sit here?
Yep. At every stage, you're like, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. It's garish until you get to that point where you put that final wash on them, and then you put that final highlight stage, and you just edge up those details just a little bit. And then in about a week later, I still remember it. It's like true to this. Emily stands up and she walks over, and she saw this hulking pile of metal, and she looked at me and she goes, "Wow, those look really incredible." And it was the most innocuous comment, but it just rung true with me so much that, like, wow, if you just kind of disassociate yourself from what a drag it is, and how each stage doesn't look the way you want it to look. The end product looks incredible, and it is so efficient, especially for beginner painters. Not beginner painters, but like, you know, those painters who are so accustomed to doing like, all right, I'm going to paint this model to completion, and then I'm going to paint this model to completion. That is so much less efficient than the assembly line. The assembly line just requires a lot more dedication and discipline.
Well, I think you apply it as a skill like anything else. And I think there's a time and a place for painting that model or maybe that 2 or 3 models. And then you set yourself up to when you're painting 5 to 10 models or 10 to 20 models. It's a different mindset.
It is it is a hugely different mindset, and my encouragement to our listeners, I guess the whole point of this finishing move segment, for me at least, is that when you have 10, 15, 20, 40 models to paint, put yourself in the right headspace that you're not approaching it the same way you would a single dreadnought or a single tank.
I think if I can jump in again, I apologize, but having like a clear vision, knowing what it's going to look like, knowing that the steps you're going to take is going to give you that result that you want. So don't get frustrated, keep your eye on the prize and do this more efficiently.
Yeah. And the key to that, Paul, is paint one up first. You know, take the first one, paint it up how you want it, have your colors, you know, write them down, get them set however you need to do it, have your palette ready to go so that you know the steps that you took to make that one, so that when you go through it, you're not fumbling trying to figure out, and you're not worried about, oh, how is this going to turn out? Because you have the one to set there as your example, and you know how it's going to turn out, and you're just going to apply it to all of them.
That's a good point.
Preach.
Yeah, another thing you're going to want to do, in my opinion, I mean, everything works for everybody differently, but if your workspace is not huge, don't get out all 300 works that you have to paint. Do like what Andrew says, get out, 20 at a time and work within your workspace. Because if you're fumbling around from model after model, you're going to forget one, you're going to miss one, you're going to go through and do every step, and you have forgotten to paint this guy's left boot for some reason.
Well, let me jump in right here. I think part of your test figure stage, you need to count the number of places you need to put X color. Like if you're painting rivets and the model has 15 rivets on each one, make sure that you write down or note in your head, I need to paint 15 rivets, and count each model. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go all the way. And that way you'll never miss a step.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, I'm the chief offender of that. I got finished with all of my Dark Angels when I did my big batch, and I swear 3 of them, the eyes were not painted. I had a bolt gun that was black. It's just, you're going to miss things here and there, and it's going to happen. But
you're definitely going to miss stuff.
Yeah, if you get a good process going, you minimize that, and heck, even the stuff that you miss, the time savings, and I think the quality standard of doing it in assembly line painting is better, and you'll save enough time where you can go back and do your fixes.
And let me just say this real quick. Like, I think that what Ricky just said is gospel truth, right? Like, do the model until paint a single model until you're like, wow, I want all of them to turn out like this, right? I mean, I wrote that article on ForgeNarrative.net about my Imperial Guard army. I was like, I did, I think 3 or 4 tester models before I found out, all right, I want all of them to look like this. And then once I got to that particular model, I was like, all right, now I'm going to paint this other one to look exactly like that. And on that second model is when I tracked exactly the steps to get to that end stage. Take your time, be meticulous, and be determinative and decisive about how you want those models to turn out. And then once it's done, you'll be shocked. You will be shocked at how easy it is to get mass numbers of troops. Tactical Marines are one of my favorite points. It's not just Guard, right? It's TAC Marines, it's Khorne Berserkers, it's Cultists, it's
I think anything above
Rhinos.
5, you're looking at this as an option for you.
Exactly right. And so get to the stage that you want, and then figure out the process of how to get to that stage, then assembly line paint. And just mechanically, and I feel like we've been kind of taking for granted, and Paul, stop me if you think I'm wrong, but mechanically, when I say assembly line paint, I mean you pick up Model A and you paint all of the blue on it, put it down. pick up model B. You paint all the exact same blue on that model.
Yeah, and it could be as simple as like a feature. You're painting the hats, you're painting the boots, you're painting everything that is blue on the model.
It's actually beneficial to think of it that way. It's not even don't even break it down by color, but just kind of
well, either or. Decide what's the best for you, I think. But that's
you've got to
steps.
Just to jump in here. I mean, you've got to turn it into bite-sized chunks for you, especially if you're working on a 20+ model batch. Like you have got to find some way to make that palatable to you, because you need some grit to go through, and it's going to feel very disinteresting after a little while to try and get all of that done. But really, the benefits of doing batch painting outweigh the presumed drudgery of it, because when you have an army where everybody is painted and they look the same and they all fit together and they don't look like, oh, I've had this army for 20 years and boy, 20 years ago I was not a great painter. You're going to love the way it looks on the table. You're going to love how everything feels like it belongs together.
And a thing I did, one of the fastest batch paints I ever did, I set a timer. It wasn't because I was trying to beat some high score or anything like that. It was just I had a timer there, and I just said I'm going to paint for this amount of time with no distractions, and I'm going to see how much I can get accomplished in this time, and then I will take a break. Because where batch painting is so monotonous and dry, and I'm ADHD, so but if you kind of challenge yourself in a way to push through it and to accomplish a set amount of stuff or accomplish so much in a set amount of time, that helps a lot.
Let's think about it this way. Like it's hard for us to really I think internalize, but when you paint up a squad of dudes and look at how many pots of paint that you have that goes on one squad, even that goes on one figure, we could be looking at 15, 20, 25 pots of paint that goes into painting a squad.
And just think about how many times you have to clean your brush between each one of those.
And open and close the pot, put out some paint. I mean, it's all adds up in minutes. And that could, when your hobby time is limited, even if it's an hour a night, it could be an hour a week. It could be 20 minutes a week.
Just looking, I'm literally just since Paul started what he was saying, he says count up the number of pots of paint you're looking at. I'm sitting at my painting table right now.
I was doing it too.
And I just picked up I was actually talking to Morgan about this earlier tonight. I was like, I just finished up some Sanguinary Guardsmen, and I'm holding a Sanguinary Guardsman in my hand, and he represents 13 paint pots.
Yeah, he's a gold dude, right? In your mind, he's a gold dude. I'm going to paint gold, but no.
Yes.
You opened up 13, 14 pots of paint.
Yes, and then
I feel like that's a very conservative number.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a pretty efficient painter. I don't.
Oh, and they look good. He sent me the pictures. They look good. I keep thinking that's half the number of paints I use.
We're not keeping score, right? But I'm saying that's each one of those is time, right?
Yeah. And everybody's got their own standard that they need to make it to, and I think everybody should have a standard to bring it up to. And once you get this technique down, and technique is a really weird word for this, but once you get this grit ready and you execute it, you'll be much happier for having done it.
There's also a time and a place for it, right?
Yeah.
Morgan and I were talking about this as well, right? When I'm painting a Sanguinary Guardsman, it's meticulous detail. I care about him so much. You're talking about a squad of 5 guys. Generally, obviously, Morgan and I have a weird sadist addiction, so we both have 25 of them. But generally speaking, with those super elite units, you're like, all right, I'm gonna paint this. I only have 5 of these models, so I'm gonna paint them. It's like a dreadnought or a Land Raider or something. You get a small quantity. There's nothing wrong with painting. You don't have to assembly line paint everything. This abstraction is what we're really talking about, is for those units of models or those armies, orcs, Tyranids, guardsmen, chaos cultists, where painting them one at a time makes 0 sense. And that grit that Morgan was talking about is essential to kind of getting to the finish line with a quality product without wasting more of your time than is necessary.
I mean, that's a great point to round us out on, Andrew. So thanks for making it. So assembly line painting, I hate to use the word like economy of motion or whatever, the phrase economy of motion, but every time that you're switching a pot out, washing a brush off, thinning down a paint or whatever, that adds to your process. Now, a lot of this you don't notice. It's invisible because it's just hobby time and that doesn't matter. But it adds up when you're trying to paint lots of figures or you're trying to meet a deadline or whatever, So it's an arrow in the quiver.
Let's just say what we really mean. Listen, assembly line painting saves lives. Okay, it saves lives. Do it.
Well, I think the points that Andrew made earlier are very spot on as to what to do, but then do some things like either keep a mental note in your head of how many times you need to apply the certain color to each figure, and that way you don't miss anything, or take notes. That's it. Just make a little note, have an example like you said, Ricky, and then meet that, and then you will speed up your time to table. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Now, we're not talking about the joy of painting an army. We're talking about getting ready for something,
this isn't Bob Ross. This isn't Bob Ross painting.
Or trying to burn through 120 orcs or whatever. You're trying to paint a WOG, and you ain't got time for that,
Yeah, I mean, I guess again, ultimately, if you're the kind of person that wants to meticulously and in great detail paint every model in a WOG, that's great. I don't want to be your friend. You're a psychopath, but I support you.
All those checkers on the whatever.
Exactly.
Well, guys, thanks for joining me on this talk tonight. We're going to have some more cover. We're going to talk about list design. We talk about some stuff in the competitive field, and the FAQ that we got this week from Games Workshop that allows you to open up stratagems to similar units from different factions. I think that's very important, and we didn't cover that tonight. We'll cover part of that next week and how it may affect some things near and dear to us, like Blood Angels. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great night, and we'll speak next week.
Good night, everybody.
Right on.
Still mad about Rough Riders.
See you, man.
I'd rather kiss a Wookiee.